So, let's talk about Derpygate. Now, I know this is very much yesterday's news. There probably isn't anything I'm going to talk about here that you didn't already know. This is purely an opinion piece. Just because back when it happened, I didn't really have a platform to give my opinion on it other than Facebook. But as a really quick history on this, Derpy is a character in My Little Pony who appeared as a background pony pretty often in the first season. The animators made her cross-eyed as a joke because originally her head was going to be hidden, and then once the layout of the scene changed, they kept it the way it was. From then on, they just had her show up as an Easter egg, just something for the fans to notice and look for. And they did. The fandom of this character just exploded. Fans love Derpy. And the appearances of Derpy became longer and more elaborate, eventually resulting in the first scene after the opening in the last roundup, featuring Derpy with a speaking role, interacting with Rainbow Dash, showing that they know each other, and that was a huge deal. It shows that the creators actually paid attention to the fan base and were doing this as a nod to them.
Nice work, Rainbow Dash!
Essentially, we see Derpy doing a lot of stupid things and being a general klutz,
Anything I can do to help?
and Rainbow Dash being annoyed about it.
Nothing! Just sit there and do nothing.
She also has a tendency to cause things to get struck by lightning because she likes to jump up and down on storm clouds. I always love this bit. Like, she just doesn't have a care in the world. That's adorable. Also, best face. But anyway, it was a fairly brief but fun scene and fans generally loved it.
Yeah, Applejack! Woohoo!
But of course, someone had to come along and ruin it because we can't have nice things. From what I gather, a handful of people decided that this was ableist and complained about it, and Hasbro listened. The result was the scene being altered with Derpy's and Rainbow Dash's voices being changed, and Derpy's eyes being somewhat less crossed. Not really sure why they bothered with that one. And I'll go into more details about this in a minute. And this created a huge rift in the fandom. Some didn't like the voice to begin with, or just didn't care about the change, and others didn't want the change and complained about it. Personally, I was in the latter camp, for a few reasons. For one, I do not think there was anything ableist about Derpy's portrayal. I could go into all the reasons, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. But mainly, I just don't like how they tried to basically unring a bell. Like, if Hasbro honestly believed that the portrayal of Derpy was wrong, make a public apology and explanation if you need to, make it a point to do it differently in the future, and anyone who didn't like the episode can just choose not to watch it, but leave the scene alone. In any case, let's go over the changes. First of all, Derpy's voice.
I just don't know what went wrong.
I guess people didn't like the dopey voice they gave Derpy originally. Apparently only snips and snails are allowed to talk that way.
Why is she so mean to us?
Yeah!
If anything, I'd think they sound worse. What actually happened here is that the voice was done by Tabitha St. Germain, better known as Rarity and Princess Luna, who didn't pick up on the fact that Derpy was female, so she modeled the voice after her next-door neighbor's son. So really, she just sounded kinda boyish.
I just don't know what went wrong.
The newer voice is cute and a lot more girly sounding, but kind of generic.
Nice work, Rainbow Dash!
Also, I just prefer the delivery of some of the lines with the original voice.
Anything I can do to help? Anything I can do to help?
Like how she says "help," and the "my bad" line just sounds funnier with a goofy voice.
My bad. My bad.
It just feels like these lines were written for a goofier voice. They also removed Derpy's name from the dialogue,
Now, careful, Derpy.
which fans were the most annoyed about because that's what they had always called her,
Now, careful.
and calling the character Derpy was done for them. The thing that rubs me the wrong way here is how they redubbed Rainbow Dash's lines. Now, I do get why they redubbed this one,
Careful, Derpy.
because there was a change in dialogue, but notice how much softer Dash is speaking now.
Now, careful, Derpy. Now, careful.
I thought I might be reading too much into that before, but now I'm noticing that her facial expression is different also. This one bothers me the most, because on one hand they're making it so that Derpy, or whoever you want to call her, is less different than other characters, but on the other, they have Rainbow Dash treating her differently. You can't have it both ways. And finally, this one is hard to spot, but they partially uncrossed her eyes in some shots. I mean, she looked that way before she started talking and had a canon name, so I don't know why that was suddenly an issue. So basically, because a handful of people complained, suddenly Derpy cannot talk funny, cannot look funny, and Rainbow Dash cannot be mad at her. Are we having fun yet? Of course, the fans who complained about the change got a lot of crap for it, and some of them were overly dramatic about it and took it as a direct insult. Hell, some of them made it seem like Hasbro was murdering or torturing Derpy. While I was on the side who didn't like the change, my thinking was more along the lines of how Hasbro taking this overly cautious approach and buckling under the loud voices of a few complainers would affect the rest of the show. Granted, in hindsight, these things didn't happen, so it's kind of a moot point, but I want to put it out there anyway because I think it was a legitimate concern. If people can say that the portrayal of Derpy is ableist, what's to stop people from saying that Party of One is poking fun at bipolar disorder, or that Lesson Zero is making fun of people with obsessive-compulsive disorder? Also, maybe Granny Smith is senile, and that's a serious illness that maybe we shouldn't be poking fun of either. The thing is, in my opinion, trying to diagnose cartoon characters with real-life illnesses can be a slippery slope. You end up with a show where no character is allowed to be quirky or different in any way because you're too afraid of someone getting offended. And that's why Derpygate bothered me so much. Now, I do realize that this is a show aimed at children, so I do understand why Hasbro felt the need to be extra careful. I'm not denying that Hasbro was put in a difficult position, I just don't think they made the best choice in the end. Again, it ended up not having as big an impact on the show as I was concerned that it might. Derpy continued to be a background pony, then was gradually pushed into the foreground again, and eventually got another speaking role. Naturally with a second voice and no name, though it did take 3 seasons for even that to happen. So that's my take on Derpygate. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to disagree with me, just be civil about it. And if there's any other aspect of My Little Pony outside of the episode recaps that you want me to talk about, let me know. That's it for now. See you next time.
Yeah, it's a mystery.